in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.
Good evening to our friends on the East Coast, good afternoon to our friends on the West, and good in-between time to our friends in the in-between spaces, which we find ourselves yet again tonight on Election Day Eve once more. Hopefully for the last time for a while. But we have a big Senate runoff tomorrow in Georgia, and all eyes of the nation and the world are upon it. And we have no one better to be with us tonight on the Social Justice Power Hour than electoral justice reporter Anoa Changa, who has boots on the ground in the Georgia community for more than a hot minute. So she'll be joining us tonight to speak about the situation in Georgia, the 411, the what for and how to, what we need to know and how we need to know it for everything that's going to go on tomorrow. So welcome to the Social Justice Power Hour. Welcome to the virtual headquarters of the Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice. My name is Robert Seda Schreiber. I am the chief activist here and your host for the Power Hour, as I have been for over 200 some odd episodes, many of them very odd indeed. We have been here every frequent weeknight since the pandemic started, and we will be here every weeknight until, who knows? We're here for you because you're here for us. So welcome, beloved community. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. As I said, tonight is super special. We have our old friend Anoa Changa with us, electoral justice reporter. She was on the show the night before Election Day in November, and that was a stunning show. And she was also with us the first time during the summer. So we're always thrilled to have Anoa with us. And we're really honored tonight because her dance card was totally full, that there are a bunch of folks that wanted her to be present, and she chose to be with us. So we're thrilled to welcome her to the show. But speaking of the Power Hour and being here every night, I do want to share with you before we start our conversation this evening some things that are coming up on the Power Hour. Know that we are here 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, every weeknight. So these are some of the things coming up tomorrow night, as we've had every Tuesday night since we started as well. Free and fabulous queer yoga with queer yoga master Jasmani, who has also been with us every night. So please join us for that. I know that tomorrow night is going to be another one of those fraught ones where we're awaiting the election results. So take a breath with us, both literally and figuratively, and join us at queer yoga tomorrow night. And then coming up after that, we have Karen Cox. Dr. Cox is with University of North Carolina. This upcoming book, No Common Ground, Confederate Monuments and the Ongoing Fight for Racial Justice. She's been on the forefront of teaching communities, helping communities to tear down Confederate monuments. And we're going to have a really fabulous conversation on Wednesday. And speaking of fabulous, Liz Glazer is going to be with us on Thursday night, just fresh off winning the Boston Comedy Festival. Wonderful comedian. Looking forward to that conversation. And then speaking of Dar Williams, folk goddess, will be with us on Friday night for a concert and conversation. Looking forward to that so much. And then coming up later in the month, this gentleman, Derek Delgadio. If you haven't heard of the movie of itself, check it out. It's going to be released on Hulu on the 21st of, actually the 22nd, sorry, the 21st he'll be with us, the 22nd of January. It's an incredible film directed by Frank Oz. It's an incredible piece of magic sleight of hand about identity and finding oneself in the journey of life, and an elephant. So join us for that with Derek. It's going to be phenomenal. We have Robert Jones Jr. The book comes out tomorrow. Make sure you order it. We have a Power Hour dedicated book list on bookshop.org. The Prophets is a phenomenal book. And Robert Jones Jr. is just an incredibly extraordinary individual. Speaking about queer love in a way that's really never been addressed in literature, and we're very excited to have him with us on the show. Pete Souza is going to be with us, White House photographer under Barack Obama and Ronald Reagan, sharing some of his favorite photographs from his tenure during the White House 2 separate times, will be with us. And Franklin Leonard, creator of The Blacklist, all the unproduced screenplays of the year. He is an incredibly important figure in show business and also in making sure marginalized communities are heard and seen on the stage. Wesley Stace, some of us know him back in the day as John Wesley Harding. I just spoke to him today. He is a charming, beautiful man, and I cannot wait to be in constant conversation with him later in the month, and then back to queer yoga tomorrow night. All that fun stuff coming up here on the Power Hour. Very excited about all those things, and I cannot wait to host all those fabulous folks. So please do be with us every night, as I said, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. Looking forward to all those conversations. Oh my gosh, I totally forgot. We also have Jonathan Ive joining us, who is the author of Muhammad Ali, A Life. We're going to have him join us in celebration of Muhammad Ali's birthday. And we're looking to maybe perhaps having a very special, super fabulous guest join Jonathan as well. But can't talk about that until we confirm the details. But stay tuned, true believers. We will bring all that to you on the Power Hour. Here's the thing. I am vamping a little bit because our guest, Anoa, has not joined us yet on the Power Hour. So please forgive me as I wait for her appearance. As I said, Anoa is an electoral justice reporter with boots on the ground, both literally and figuratively, in the Georgia community. So tonight is obviously a very busy night for her. She's been working toward this for months and months and months, reporting on the stuff that we don't see or hear nationally and outside of the community. So that's why we're so thrilled to have her voice with us tonight to give us everything we need to know, the skinny, the 411, the what for and how to, and what's going to go on tonight and especially tomorrow. What we're missing, what we need to know, how we can best support. Talking about a certain phone call that came to light yesterday. All these things and more will be part of the conversation we have with Anoa when she joins us here in the Power Hour. I see Karen Cox is with us in the audience. As I mentioned, she's an incredible professor at UNC. This book is going to be an incredibly important addition to this year's conversation. Last year was about adjusting our beliefs and our ideas and how we move things forward. And this year, 21, is going to be a concrete way for us to do that. And one of the things is addressing things like Confederate monuments and the fact that they no longer belong in our communities. There's no justification whatsoever. So Karen will be with us to discuss how we best move that forward. And she has been not only preparing this book, which is so timely, but she's been going out to communities across the country, virtually, obviously, and will be with us virtually on Wednesday, and discussing how we dismantle these monuments, both literally and figuratively again, how we make sure that these blights in our community, we get rid of them so all of us can live comfortably without the specter of these things looking us in the face every day. So Karen's been doing some amazing work, and we look forward to speaking with her about that. So that's what we have coming up on the Power Hour. I'm sorry, I'm still waiting for Anoa to show up, and I'm sure she'll be here any moment. Please forgive me for the delay. We'll get to that as soon as we can. In the meanwhile, I have an idea. Why don't we do this? Since we have our beautiful friend Dar Williams coming to us on Friday, if I can find it right quick, unfortunately not. I'm just thinking about what we can do in the meanwhile, so you don't have to hear me banter on. I want to try to find Anoa and see where her difficulties may lie so I can help her to make her appearance. But in the meanwhile, let me share with you my wish for the new year. I think that's really important that we all remember that although we're looking at a new president and a new vice president, both very inspirational, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, joining us for so many reasons, and that it's a new year and we look to new beginnings and a new path, a new journey together as a beloved community. Let's bear in mind that these things are not going to happen overnight or in a week or even in a month. That these things are going to take time, and these conversations we have on the Power Hour and these conversations you have in your houses, with your family, with your friends, these are important things that we do to be together, to make sure that we are finding that path together so we can move forward. So in a week, in a month, in the next year, we all join together and make sure that our voices are heard, that our paths are united, that our journeys are in step with each other when they need to be, and out of step when they need to be as well. It's important that we move together sometimes, and it's important that we move apart. We may disagree on some things, and we have to have conversations about that. That's really, really important that we remember that with all these communities coming together, there are going to be times when we need to have parallel journeys, that we may not be together, but that we all respect and love one another, and we support each other in these journeys as well. So please bear that in mind, everybody, as we move forward. Again, I forgive the Power Hour, forgive the Bayard Rustin Center for Social Justice for the delay in our guest joining us. As I said at the outset, she is someone who is incredibly busy and incredibly hardworking. So this is obviously a pivotal night in her reportage, in her journalism, in her journey. So I'm sure she's stuck doing something of great import and will be with us momentarily. So please bear with us as we wait for Anoa to join us. In the meanwhile, again, I'm trying to find the right piece that can give us some, I see Karen, you know what? Karen, you're out there. You have the link to join us. If you want to pop on for a minute and talk about what we're going to talk about on Wednesday and give us a sneak preview, that would be delightful. If you are camera ready in any way, shape, or form. And if I see it pop up, that's fantastic, because that's how we build community here, right? If not, I will certainly keep trying to find something to empower and entertain us in the meanwhile as we wait for Anoa to join us. And I thank you all for your patience. Again, when you have guests like this that are doing the work of the people, boots on the ground, there are going to be delays like this as they do what they need to do, and we have to respect that and understand it. And I thank you all for bearing with us. So Karen saying she's not camera ready, so I respect that, of course, and I appreciate. Do not pressure, no peer pressure. Please know that we will find something to bring us together while we wait for Anoa. I just wish I could be off camera for a second to give you all something to, you know what? Here's something of interest, I think, for tonight. This is a little clip. This is when Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver of New Jersey, our own Lieutenant Governor here in Princeton, New Jersey, which is where the center is based. This was a piece when she was with us on the Power Hour. I thought it was really meaningful and powerful, and I think very suitable for the moment. So let me play this for you as I try to sort out where we can find Anoa. So please enjoy this piece from Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver when she was with us.
Absolutely. I am unabashedly and unashamed to stand up in any room and make the make the declaration that I am a Black woman And I am not afraid to stand up in any room with anybody and say, Black, 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 Black. I've been like that my entire life. When I came to the New Jersey General Assembly, Senator Ron Rice, who's been in the Senate for probably over 30 years, he is the chair of the New Jersey Legislative Black Caucus. And when I was a freshman, along with other freshmen in the legislature, I remembered at one meeting, he said, don't be ashamed to stand up on that chamber floor and say, Black, Black, Black. I've done that during the 16 years that I was in the General Assembly. And, it's an uncomfortable conversation for some people, but life isn't about being comfortable, and making social progress and achieving social justice isn't always comfortable. But I never had a problem doing that. I never, ever did. And, I have often, in certain environments I've been in, I've been viewed as an outlier. I've been viewed as, a person that's not going to go along with the program. But being an outlier, being a person not going along with the program, there is one thing that I have. I've got my knowledge. I've got my expertise. I do my homework. I dot my I's. I cross my T's. And those that I have had to work with through the years that possess a different ideology than mine, I really, really believe they just came to the conclusion, listen, she's not going away anywhere. She's a thorn in our side, so we might as well just deal with her and work with her. I think that is what my story is.
And it's a beautiful story, and it's so empowering. That's Lieutenant Governor Sheila Oliver of New Jersey, everybody. And guess what? We have our guest with us. We have the wonderful, extraordinary, inspirational Noah Changa, electoral justice reporter, boots on the ground from Georgia, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us, Noah. I know that your dance card is full for tonight, and we are so honored that you're with us. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Thank you so much for having me. Sincerest apologies. I tried to do the mom thing and grab a quick nap, and I'm so sorry. So I appreciate the grace and space and time, and really excited to chat with y'all. And thank you so much for having me back this evening. And again, apologies everyone for being tardy to the party.
You never have to apologize. You are such an incredibly good friend to the center, and I dare say to me personally, I have such fondness for you, and the center appreciates all the work that you do. And the fact that you're here on election eve is phenomenal to us, because I know that you've been working toward this, and you're right at the finish line. And, coming and spending this time with us is really extraordinary. So we appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's been a real honor over the past year in particular to be able to cover the work that has been happening here with so many amazing people across the state from a journalistic capacity. But even before that, just being in community with so many different people. I'm just having flashbacks to 2 years ago in 2018, after our gubernatorial election, ballot chasing with folks. And for folks who may not be familiar, you have to cure. Some states, you have the ability to cure absentee ballots if there are issues, or cure provisional ballots. In this case, we were chasing, trying to reach out to voters who had to vote by provisional ballot in 2018, and making sure they understood how to cure to make sure their ballot would actually count. And so that was a really eye-opening experience, volunteering for one of the local organizations here. And just really being able to see, how some of the sauce is made, from getting to know some of the folks who do voting rights organizing across the state, and just really the collective organizing that has happened from the northern, parts of the state, like Gainesville, Georgia, all the way down to southeast and southwest. And we're talking about like Brunswick and Augusta to the southwest, down in Albany and Daughtry County, and so many other places in between. So yeah, it's been an amazing, I mean, regardless of what happens tomorrow, it's been really amazing watching the power of people collectively come together and do this thing.
So what is going to happen tomorrow?
I mean, you know, like if we get our way, if all the cards and all the stars are aligned, we will see 2 new U.S. senators going to the Senate and a new member of the Public Service Commission. The Public Service Commission is actually a part of this runoff as well, and it's not something that has been talked about nearly as much as the other races, but there are some really important issues, whether it's broadband access and making sure it's affordable and available to everyone, regardless of where they live or how much they can afford, or we're talking about just the price of utilities. Georgia has some of the highest utility bill rates in the country. And we've also just seen, really been hard hit. Many communities have been hard hit with unemployment and delays in processing of unemployment, among other things across the state. So having someone in the Georgia Public Service Commission who is really serving and speaking for the people and not necessarily in the pocket of major corporations and big industry. There's been just a lot of issues around just the major electric company here and some pass-through charges that are now being not burnt, but being borne onto, individuals paying. I'm really thankful that, I have an electric bill that is manageable, but we have some of our folks in community down in southern parts of the state that have been plagued with really high gas and electric bills, and it's been a burden. And then you couple that with the older housing stock that may not have the same weather modernization that some of us, experience in newer homes or more updated apartment complexes. And they are really, feeling the brunt of a lot of these charges and changes. So having the Public Service Commission as a part of this conversation is like really crucial to moving things forward and providing advancement for a lot of people across the state.
And that's why I'm so thrilled that you're here tonight. I do want to caution my viewers when you said hopefully 2 new senators, and I went like this. That was a personal statement from me and not an opinion of our 501c3 nonprofit.
Yes.
Lobby or endorse any candidate.
Yes, absolutely.
My unofficial counsel is watching.
Absolutely. I know, absolutely appreciate the 501c3 clarification, because it is really important. Sorry, I'm trying to get my internet situated too at the same time, but it's definitely an important consideration when we're talking about what's at stake in this election. And I just think from, just a regular person, just nonpartisan, what is at stake right now? We have healthcare on the ballot. Rural Georgia has had, I think, upwards of 9 hospital closures in the last several years. We are a state that has not expanded Medicaid, and the ACA is, on the chopping block potentially, depending upon how the Supreme Court decides coming up. So this incoming Congress could have, widespread implications on places like Georgia that have not even expanded their Medicaid. I mean, we also, in addition to not expanding Medicaid, our governor has actually petitioned the outgoing Trump administration to do away with our exchange. So we will no longer have, I think it's as of 2022. I can't remember when it goes into effect, but we will no longer have like an actual marketplace exchange through the ACA. And it'll be more of a free for all for people to have to, find their own insurance through private brokers, et cetera. And, a lot of the argument tends to be, oh, we're giving people more access, we're giving people more options, but oftentimes that really just makes things more confusing. There's less regulation and there's more opportunity for people to be price gouged for just the basic healthcare that they need. Not to mention, we have seen in many states where we've lost the support for marketplaces. So like there are some states that have their own marketplace exchange, right? Georgia's not even creating its own marketplace exchange. It's just saying folks should just go out there into the free market and whatever happens, happens. And so those are some of the things that are at issue. Like I talked about the Public Service Commission. But when we're talking about the Senate race, I mean, we are really looking at like, it's a matter of what people value, right? And so that's what's going to happen when people, for those who are going to the polls to vote in person tomorrow, and for the, explosive turnout we've seen already for folks who have voted by mail and voted absentee, or voted by mail and voted in person early already. So there's a lot at stake. And so, yeah, we definitely want to say 501c3 compliant. We do not want to be like organizations like True the Vote that have a 501c3, but then, consort with political parties and do other things that are flying in the face of that designation. So definitely appreciate the reminder.
This is what I absolutely adore about you, is you've been on the show for about 5 minutes and you've already totally given us so much insight that nobody else has given us. That the national media is so focused on these two pieces of a puzzle that have, a dozen important pieces, and then beyond that, 3 or 4 dozen other pieces that matter, incrementally. And that's why I'm so thrilled we're having this conversation. And it was so much more magnified 24 hours ago when that tape came out. And I thought, oh my gosh, I am so thrilled and Noah's going to be with us. But then you did the most amazing thing. Everybody on the Twitter machine was talking about what a hero Raffensperger was, and he should get a medal, and what a great guy he is. And I was just thinking, he's just doing his freaking job, the bare minimum. And then you spoke words to it by saying he just doesn't want to go to jail. He's not doing anything brave or valiant. He just doesn't want to go to jail. And I love you for that. So speak on
thank you.
Speak on that, because everyone else was talking about, oh my gosh, what a great guy, and you were like, no. And he's also has a really spotty record of voting rights, right?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, just before Christmas, I think it was December 23rd, AP, Associated Press reported that Brad Raffensperger, the Secretary of State that everyone's celebrating, announced that he supported efforts in the coming legislative cycle to do away with no excuse absentee ballot voting. And Georgia is like one of the only states in the South that had, I think North Carolina might be the other one, but it's actually not very widespread in the South to have no excuse absentee voting. And he decided, its rules changed because of the pandemic, but they're now, having all these efforts because they're upset because it's been overwhelmingly, skewed against Republicans in terms of absentee ballots, those who've been casting them, because we are still in the middle of the pandemic and people are trying to socially distance and trying to be safe. And we have seen this as a conversation, scaling up use of vote by mail opportunities, such as absentee ballot use, since March, the March primaries. We saw the debacle that was in Wisconsin, in Ohio, and which is really interesting, right? In Ohio, the Republican Party, a Republican governor, a Republican Secretary of State were able to usher in the increased use of absentee ballot with all of this vitriol and conversation, right? But in Georgia, which, followed a similar, pattern and practice of getting out absentee ballot applications to everyone who was a registered voter across the state, there has been this fighting tooth and nail from Republican leadership in the state, outside of the state, over scaling up absentee ballot use. And because it's because of how close the state has been to tipping. When you look back at the 2018 election, and it's not a matter of what party or candidate you support it. The facts and the numbers show what they do. When you see the massive voter purges and removal of voters from the rolls, when you see the egregious errors that happen at the polls, the large overuse of provisional ballots and poll closures and consolidations and all the confusion that happened, there were more than enough voters for, the outcome of that election to go a different way. And so part of what we see also with this phone call, it's wild, right? Why is it of all the states that have Republican Secretary of States or Republican elected officials, why are they leaning so hard on Georgia? Because Georgia doesn't actually change the outcome for the outgoing president. It's not like if Donald Trump could magically turn Georgia around from Biden, that he could suddenly still be the president. That's not even a facts in evidence, right? And there's a lot of facts that are in evidence that they don't seem to care about. But it's just really interesting the way they're pressing on Georgia. And there's really so much, because Georgia is also like a symbol for what is possible when you invest, organize, and grind, and how you can overcome repression at the ballot box, right? And so what we're hearing on this tape is, yes, a very clear, if you listen, whether you listen to the 4 or 5 minute clip that was first put out, or you are like me and you listen to the whole hour-long transcript, hour-long conversation, or you read the transcript, you do see at multiple points the president of the United States, who is on his way out the door, requesting that the Secretary of State and his staff find more votes. Like, this is a scandal. Like, this isn't television. You can't just find votes. You can't just poof, more votes happen. But why he even felt comfortable to do that, you never see this vitriol lobbied at Kim Wyman, who is a Republican Secretary of State from Washington, who from the very beginning of the pandemic and this conversation around vote by mail, absentee ballot use, has been very clear that her job, her role as the chief administrator of elections in her state, is to the sanctity of elections first and foremost, and party comes later, right? And so she has been a continued steward, like fighting back against absentee ballot use. So if we want to like champion or raise up anyone, like Kim Wyman might be the Republican Secretary of State to do that, not Brad Raffensperger, who, while he has, like I said, he sent out absentee ballot applications to everyone across the state who were eligible voters. But within a week of, announcing, that was happening, he turned around and formed a criminal absentee ballot fraud task force. And so on the one hand, we have a public, national acknowledgement that these conversations around voter fraud and absentee ballot fraud are not grounded in any overwhelming evidence that there are these massive issues. And yet we have the Secretary of State that everyone's currently praising, creating a task force that consisted of predominantly white conservative prosecutors. And with the intention, like specifically at the time he was announcing this was happening, one of the comments he made in a local article was that some of the things they'd be looking at in terms of fraud could be signature match issues, right? Signature match issues are actually more common than people realize. I mean, just thinking about those of us who have younger people in our lives, whether you have kids, grandkids, nieces, nephews, whomever, we know a lot of younger folks don't even learn cursive anymore, right? What's a checkbook? What's a check? So they're not necessarily like being as conscientious with the way they write their they write their signature. And also, like, a lot of us, our signatures are being compared to a digitized signature that we might have done at the DMV. And those little pads, like, that's not an accurate reflection oftentimes of how we sign our name. And your signature can change for multiple reasons, across the board. So this signal that they were looking at that as one of the possible concerns around fraud investigations, right? From a criminal standpoint with prosecutors involved, that raised alarms for a lot of people. And so voting rights organizers formed a voter empowerment task force, not just because of to combat that, but also because there were a lot of glaring issues still in the system. And the legislature, from Republican leadership and the Secretary of State, were so focused on this potential for absentee ballot fraud that we have these checks and balances that are built into the system, which keeps getting glossed over a lot in all of this as well. So even though we do have the Secretary of State taking certain actions that are appropriate, we still have him saying things that reinforce and signal and provide support to, the ridiculous theories and unfounded claims being made by Republicans in locally and nationally. We saw this even recently, December 23rd, like I mentioned, he is in favor of getting rid of no excuse absentee ballots, claiming that it could lead to fraud. We have no evidence that has even happened. We also have in this instance here that he created this signature match audit process after saying and telling the president and supporters that we can't do that. That's not a real thing. He created this process to appease them in one of the Metro Atlanta counties, Cobb County. And so you hear this on the tape as well, right? Like Trump is mad because they didn't, go look at all the signatures in Fulton County, which is the largest county in the state. It is where Atlanta is. It is largely Black. There's a large block of Black voters in our county. And so, when they start talking about Fulton County, like this is really what they're talking about. They're talking about attacking the rights of Black voters to have their ballots count. And so you have them trying to appease the president. So Because he's saying, they're like, well, we did it in Cobb County, see, and nothing happened. But the thing is, like, they know these allegations aren't factual. They're not based on anything substantial, but they're still creating the fact that we have all these investigations that the Secretary of State has vaguely talked about. Without any real evidence or information. We see the same thing happening in the hearings that are being held in the state legislature in both the House and the Senate, with, you know, people making wild claims in opening statements and remarks and questions that are still based on nothing. And they keep saying, well, we need to make sure people have confidence in the process. But there would never be any issue about confidence in the process if they weren't fear-mongering and misleading their base about what's actually going on. So I was really fortunate that Truthout was able to pick this piece up right before New Year's Eve. I wrote an article that came out today about Brad Raffensperger not being worthy of praise for doing his job. Because it was already happening some, and then that explosive tape came out yesterday. And on the one hand, you can empathize and you can understand why somebody would be pushed to recording that type of conversation. And Georgia is a one-party recording state, so you don't require the permission of the other party to record. And from what the accounts that have come out, you know, their staff had been tired of people antagonizing them and distorting what they were saying. And he sat on the tape until the president tweeted misinformation about their conversation, and then apparently they released it. But that conversation does not make him a hero. Like, he pushed back and gave the facts because, like, his hands are tied. He can't do anything more. You hear someone on the call, including his general counsel, they're exasperated. They're continuously being asked to make miracles happen and they can't do it. But they're also exasperated because they're going through all these things they did through. And it's a conversation about appeasing. And a real hero would have shut it down. Like, why are you still talking to him for an hour and letting him just ramble on? But it seems like that's what Republicans have continued to do, is let Donald Trump just continue to go on and on and on like an Energizer bunny and not flipping the switch, like not turn it off. And so here we are. Tomorrow's the election. We have Secretary of State Brad Raffensperger threatening organizations, nonprofit, nonpartisan organizations that do what's called line warming with felony charges. Through a distortion of existing federal and state law, claiming that giving people water or whatever for standing in line is akin to, a felony, and giving people something of value for the vote, which, if it's only given to people who are voting or just voted, that has been interpreted to be an accurate interpretation. However, the work that has been happening, whether it's pizzas to the polls that folks have seen happen nationally, Chef Andres has been doing, amazing things with the food trucks that they've been having all over the country, including here in Georgia. But these are, all of these different organizations nationally and statewide have consulted with legal practitioners, have made sure that they're staying on the right side of the law, and while encouraging civic engagement. And part of that includes making sure you're offering food or whatever it is to anyone in the vicinity, right? Because that removes you're giving someone something for value. So whether it's poll workers, other staff, if it's in a public building, or other people who may be around. Because, some of us, our polling locations are in, very populated areas of our community where other people could still be, nearby. So these are some of the issues that we're seeing. I mean, we also saw Brad Raffensperger side with True the Vote. I made a quip about True the Vote earlier, but True the Vote is a Texas-based conservative nonprofit, allegedly a C3 on paper, that has joined, and they announced they were joining with the Republican Party to protect this election. But what they call protecting the election has been sponsoring challenges to thousands of voters across the state on the basis of changes to people's address. So the changes, if you change your address with the Postal Service, right? But what most of the counties that have received these challenges have determined is that they have not met the basic probable cause standard for it to even, go further. There were 2 counties that were moving forward. It's approximately a little over 4,000 voters were at stake. And a case by federal judge Abrams Gardner, and Abrams, she is related to Stacey Abrams. She is her sister. Can you imagine all that brilliance in one family? You have a federal judge and this amazing voting rights advocate, 2 powerful lawyers in one family. But that has drawn the ire of some, including the Secretary of State, because she struck down those two counties that were willing to let those challenges go forward. She struck them down and told them they were not allowed to tamper with anyone on the ballot, because she used the same exact rationale as, dozens of other counties around the state. Finding that they did not have probable cause. And there are certain legal provisions within the National Voting Rights Act, right, the NVRA of 1993, that have requirements for when you can remove people if it's within 90 days. What are the things you have to be able to do to make those such challenge? And she found that none of those things were met. The same thing that lawyers for these various counties, from Cobb County and other counties, found the same thing, right? But Brad Raffensperger, just days before people were praising him once again for his brilliant stand against Trump, issued a statement supporting, the True the Vote position, which actually flies in the face of the law, claiming that it was actually Judge Abrams Gardner that was violating the rule of law. So it's this sleight of hand that he keeps doing. He keeps trying to play both sides. Like, yes, he has joined some various cross-partisan efforts across the general election. He even had a election panel or commission that he pulled together that had folks from the Carter Center, that had the president of the NAACP, the Georgia NAACP. But his stance and his statement against the decision by Judge Abrams Gardner, and how partisan and misinformed it was, it led to James Woodall, who's the Georgia NAACP president, issuing a statement and resigning from that bipartisan commission, because there is this falsehood. He's paying lip service in many instances to fairness in the election process, while actively giving Republicans the ammunition they need to undo it in our legislative cycle, which starts in a couple of weeks.
So I have to say this, 3 things. One is, I think it was good that you were late, because you're imparting so much information. I think people's heads would explode if you were here for the full hour. So I think it was beneficial. 2 is, I have so much I want to ask you, but there is a question that I saw from our community, and I just want to find it right here. Curious to know Anoa's take on why the Justice Department closed investigations on in Loeffler's case. Do you have any knowledge of that?
Thank you, Cynthia, for the question. So I don't have any specific deep knowledge, but one thing I think about the Justice Department, when you look at so many of the egregious actions that have happened over the last several years, that is not necessarily, the current staffing and leadership. I don't see them actually, we found out so much more about David Perdue as well, right? So I don't actually see that current, administration actually taking action on those things. And it's questionable what will happen with the incoming administration, because of President-elect Joe Biden's statements previously about wanting to unite the country, right? And seeing investigations as, being, divisive. But part of my concern about us focusing so much on divisiveness, right, and unity at any and all costs, is that we're also sending the wrong message, right? This whole last several months, we have increasingly seen Republicans who Ted Cruz absolutely knows better than what he has been doing, right? Ted Cruz knew better when he was, throwing a hissy fit and causing a shutdown several years ago. I used to be a federal employee, and we were all quite mad, regardless of political affiliation. Personally, we're quite mad with Senator Cruz over the shutdown shenanigans before. But, these people know better. And so it's not even about, let's just let bygones be bygones. We have people who are actively not just undermining the sanctity of an election, but signaling to other people that these types of disruptions for the long haul are what is expected and what they should be doing. And while I'm all for people expressing themselves and taking civic action and civil disobedience, this is like something completely different, right? This is, some people have used the term sedition and things of that nature, but we are seeing, like, there's no legitimate grievance except for the fact that you lost. It's like having a 3-year-old be upset that they can't stay up past their bedtime, and just throwing a temper tantrum for there's no legitimate reason for you to be upset. Like, I'm sure if you have kids in your life, they might get upset over things and you're just like, really, you're upset again, I mean, for this thing that is actually is actually the right thing. So, I mean, I just think about the Justice Department. I don't actually even know that this would even matter with her voting block either, right? Because we've seen the countless issues that have been raised with the president himself, the outgoing president, and people are still like, even all the things that the outgoing president, folks in the Republican Party have done to Brad Raffensperger, he himself still says that he would vote for him. He's still a Republican, yeah. And they're still very much party online. Like, we have the Secretary of State, we have one of his senior staffers, as they're denouncing what has happened with the president, they're still telling Republicans, we need you to vote. And yes, we still would support our president. Like, it's unfathomable watching what's happening right now.
Well, it's party over country, and it's been despicable. And, you give credence to it, not you personally, I'm talking about one, gives credence to it. So it allows it to erupt from an underlying theme to how many years ago was it, people kept saying, they're saying the quiet part out loud, right? They're saying the part that usually is kept, and it's just despicable. So that brings me to my next question, a perfect segue. The past 2 months since the general election in November to now, and it's tomorrow, what was the one thing, or maybe there's more, I'm sure there's more than one, knowing you as well as I do, that made your head absolutely fucking explode when you heard or saw it happen, about this election that's happening tomorrow?
I mean, there's a lot of things, but I think the thing that really grabbed me, as we were on the eve of this election, was the way we're signaling out. Like, it just seems like nationally people have not really learned. Folks are so, and I get it, right? Like, we see something happening, we have this feeling that there's been so much wrong that has been done that has not been like dealt with. We've seen so many people who were once thought of as being like principled Republicans or whatever, like cowering. I think back to reading an article, I think it was in like 2015 or 2016, about the great friendship between Lindsey Graham and President-elect Joe Biden, and like Lindsey Graham really being there for Joe Biden when his son passed away. And so there has been this idea that like people, even though they had different, sides or point of views, and the fact that has changed, that that respect, that mutual respect has changed. People blame it squarely on Trump, but Republicans have been very, and this is my C3 objective observation happening here, you think back to the Tea Party in 2010, right? The rise of the Tea Party in 2009, 2010. Republicans have been very willing to let this type of destructive force enter their party, because the chaos that it ensues for the rest of society, it makes it a lot easier for them to push through particular agendas and ideas. And so we have Democrats and liberals that have just been, reluctant to actually call it and say it what it is, and keep looking for these opportunities or these moments that we might see some good. Like, it's like Luke Skywalker, talking about seeing the good in Darth Vader after Darth Vader has mass murdered millions of people in the galaxy, right? I see the good in you, Father. I'm going to do this no matter what. And so, it's just really interesting watching it unfold. So this praise of Raffensperger, and just really the glossing over of how Raffensperger is very much Kemp 2.0 and what we've been seeing. He just hasn't been in office nearly as long and has not had the opportunity to run his own election, which will be happening in 2022, unfortunately. And so, that was seeing writers who are, voting rights or politicos or whatever, like praising him and like, yes, he's defending us against Trump. It's like, no, he's not. There are countless ways that Brad Raffensperger in the past 2 months since the election, despite everything that Trump and Republicans have been doing and literally calling for him to resign, he's been in a moment of appeasement, right? And trying to console them and cajole his party versus really standing up for what matters most in this election. And it's just really unfortunate. And I think one of the things I'll just add, one thing that has uplifted me is just seeing the amazing organizing that folks have known was valuable, important, and happening here, finally being recognized. So yes, folks have known the story of Stacey Abrams' campaign, but you're learning more about, organizations that have had some national attention before, Black Voters Matter, New Georgia Project, but you're also learning about the powerful work that's been happening with AAPI organizers across the state. You're also learning more about the growth of Latino organizers. You're learning more about rural, Black organizers, right? And other places outside of Atlanta proper. And that is just really powerful. I mean, we've also seen really great youth turnout and engagement. My daughter really hates me pointing this out, but I was really excited because I got to vote with my 19-year-old. I keep saying for the first time, but she's like, Mom, I voted like 5 or 6 times this year already because of all the different shenanigans that have happened with the elections and runoffs and all that. But we've seen young people really having explosive growth in their turnout over, prior demographic periods. And so it's been amazing to watch all that happen and just really get to see folks. And I just said AAPI organizers, and I always make the point of this ever since it was pointed out to me a couple of years ago. We say AAPI as a shorthand, but we really got to start disaggregating communities. We saw this in the aftermath of the general election, talking about Latino voters, right? Like Latino voters in Florida are not the same as Latino voters in Texas and elsewhere, right? Like that was one part of the commentary people were talking about. I mean, the Latino organizers here in Georgia helped deliver 2 really impactful wins in sheriff's races in Gwinnett and Cobb County. And we just had the incoming the new Gwinnett sheriff, Gwinnett sheriff announced that they would be no longer participating in the 287G program. And that is a program that is cooperation with ICE in detention deportation. So that was like a major and significant win. And he actually announced some other reforms in terms of some of the issues with the county jail and detention as well, that were big wins for organizers with just that one race. And so we are seeing the power of what can happen with local wins and local organizers at the same time as well happening here in Georgia. But we've seen it in other places too. We just, unfortunately, the national news gets caught up in red to blue that we don't drill down and actually see more of what's happening at the local level. I had a piece last month in the Appeal about some local wins in Ohio, and we've seen, these municipal level, county level wins happening across the country. So a state might be red because of the way they hit it on the map, but when you actually drill down to the county level, to the census block level, you may see some actual other changes happening and going on. And we need to be nurturing and supporting that work that's happening everywhere.
Amazing. And I just want to say that I want to remind our viewers that you just woke up from a nap. And if you are this on point right after waking up from a nap, I cannot even just fathom. And Chris, our dedicated volunteer, as always, has been with us for months and months at the Power Hour here. Chris has thrown up all the links so you can read all these pieces that Anoa has been talking about. They are incredibly, they're as well written as you are well spoken. They're beautiful pieces. They're incredibly important information, but they're also really well written. They're good to read. A lot of pieces. Well, it's just the freaking truth. A lot of pieces like impart great information, but you're like, oh my gosh, please learn to write a sentence. And
that's credit to the amazing editors I get to work with shout out to the editorial team at TruthOut. Seriously, like I sent them an email, I think on Tuesday afternoon, right before New Year's Eve, in the middle of people's vacation and stuff. And luckily got a response from Alana, the managing editor. And they were able, despite the New Year's holiday, to still get edits and comments back to me. So that piece could be up today in TruthOut. So, they're just amazing people who are also doing this work, who make folks like me look good so that y'all can read and be like, she's so smart. So I just definitely amazing editors across the board who do great work.
You don't need that much help. I know that for sure. That's a fact. I'll stake my 513 on that. I will lobby and endorse you, my friend. Here's the thing. Along with all these organizations doing the work, do you think that, and this is, I think this is more than just superficial. Do you think celebrities finally got it right here? The day after the general, everyone's like, I'm moving to Georgia. I'm going to Georgia. And you were like, stay the hell away from Georgia. You want to send money. You want to lend your voice. Fantastic. But don't set foot here. We don't need you. And the voice was heard. And that appeal was heard. And there have been so many folks, social media wise and using their celebrity in a really positive way. Literally phone banking, putting their mouths on the phones and raising money and doing all these events. Have they finally gotten it right in this cycle?
Well, it was really interesting. I got to host a panel conversation earlier in the general election. Well, actually, late in the earlier last year, but in the general election, for I think it was the Ebenezer Baptist Church. They have a social justice ministry, and they had a panel about the election, and we got asked the question, or the question I got to ask the group was about, celebrity, influencers. Are they helpful? Like, do they hurt? Do they help? And so one of the things that came out from that conversation, I absolutely agree with this, is when celebrities are on message, when celebrities are amplifying and sharing, and lifting up the work that is already happening and making sure people are getting good content, it is a win for all of us, right? We often focus on getting big celebrities to do things, which is really great. I mean, we saw this during the uprising some too. We saw celebrities handing over their social media accounts to organizers to get the word out, right? But we also, can't overlook the importance and value of micro influencers and other leaders who maybe they don't have hundreds of thousands or millions of followers, but they still have a very loyal and engaged following, who are willing to, take a moment to do a tweet storm. Or we saw New Georgia Project has been really great about doing this, doing videos with gamers on Twitch, conversations and live streams and stuff like that. So there are some really amazing things that we have seen happening. I do think that it's a testament also to the organizing, how tight the organizing, and again, it's not perfect. I mean, we're all human beings, right? So nothing's going to be perfect. But the organizing here has been very tight, and there's been a lot of message discipline and clarity on Georgia got us to this point. Georgia's going to take us all the way home. So if you want to come to Georgia, you need to get on our page. And so I really appreciate the message discipline and strength and self-determination that has come up from the ranks of folks in Georgia, so that it has made other folks. When I started seeing, because you're right, originally I was like, everybody needs to go to Georgia, or Georgia needs to do this. And everybody was like, whoa. Y'all didn't even believe in what we were talking about until today. So we got this. So it's been amazing to watch all of that organizing unfold here.
So how do we get folks to stay? Obviously, Georgia has a lot of very problematic things happening in a platform level, in a structural level. So there's all this attention, there's all this spotlight, there's all this excitement on making this happen tomorrow. How about the next day? How do we as a community make sure that we pressure folks to stay in tune and attentive and passionate about making sure that folks at Georgia are taken care of in the way they deserve to be?
I love that question so much. And I think I would expand it more as we're almost through this election cycle. We have the inauguration happening in less than 3 weeks. And so I would encourage and employ everyone to be more engaged consistently and not just waiting for the next major election cycle to come up. We all have legislative cycles happening across the country. And we do know that, the state legislatures are where so many things are pushed through. So as the battles are being played out in Congress and the Supreme Court, the state legislature, being able to actually engage with your state, your elected officials, regardless of what their party affiliation is, letting people know that you exist and your voice and your issues, concerns matter is crucial. As for Georgia, Georgia's going to keep doing what Georgia's been doing, but for folks who want to, provide, if you have some extra, to support, some of the ongoing organizing that will continue, because that's the other value. And it's not just Georgia. You have organizations in, so many different states around the country that also do this year-round civic engagement organization. And you have people like you who are having conversations and helping to put a highlight on the work that is happening, right? So hopefully we not just learn about the work that happens in a Georgia, or the work that happens maybe with organizers in Detroit or Milwaukee or wherever. We're able to say, hey, maybe we can stop and do this type of thing where we are, or maybe we need to tweak it and do something a little different, but maybe it's possible. And I think that's just what's really important, is taking the lessons and how do we make how do we operationalize civic engagement and make it more of a part of our daily lives. I'm not saying that folks got to, become full-time organizers in addition to everything else you have going on in your lives, but we have seen so many different ways in which government has failed us, from the pandemic response to the economic crisis I mean, a lot of us are still recovering from the economic crisis 10, 12 years ago, right? So there are gaps in the system, unfortunately, and it takes all of us to move things forward.
So I know that I teased you at the outset, and I said, what's going to happen tomorrow? And I know that you have no crystal ball, but given your vast knowledge and experience, and given the early voting and the folks that have showed up ahead of time, does that portend anything for you? Does that give you any inkling of what we might expect tomorrow?
I mean, the problem tomorrow is definitely the wild card. Like what day of voting, election day voting looks like is definitely the wild card, and whether or not turnout will, sway one way or another or exceed. And we have been seeing, like I said, we've seen some resounding, overwhelming. I can't remember. I think it's 3 million people have cast ballots so far in this election, and that exceeds the next highest runoff, which was, I think, in 2008 or 2012, several years ago. So we actually had a runoff in 2018, and it had abysmal turnout by comparison. So this is amazing, because runoff elections usually do not have large turnout. It's often very difficult to get people re-engaged again, especially with such a short period of time. So I honestly cannot say what will happen tomorrow, but what I do know is that the organizing, the collective work that people have been doing, the opportunity and understanding of potential and engagement has made so many communities so much stronger and richer. We have proven the value and purpose and strength in having multiracial, multi-ethnic, multi-faith organizing efforts that are happening across the state. And we have shown that, you can't just write off a state as being red simply because it has turned that way for particular reasons, that investing in communities and working with grassroots groups is and listening, right? Listening to understand people and not just listening to be rushing to respond is really critical to bringing about the change that we know that we deserve in our communities across the country.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So my last question, I know we're in the after party now, Prince Be Proud. My last question is this, my lovely friend. Will you promise me and our community that you will take some time for yourself on Wednesday? I know not tomorrow. I know you're on 24/7, if not more tomorrow. But on Wednesday, please. You have done so much work.
I have actually still, I just thank you for saying that. You are the second person I think that I had an interview or something with in the past week that has been like, can you please rest? Or really the past couple of days has been like, can you rest? Can you promise me you're going to sleep? So rest is something that I think a lot of us take for granted, especially when we look at our predecessors and we know there's so much at stake, but you are absolutely correct. And again, I appreciate y'all for being so gracious about me overstaying. I was trying my best to start doing naps too, because it is a lot and we are always grinding. And clearly I needed that extra 30 minutes. But thank you for that. I promise that I will be napping and being more kind to myself in the coming weeks and months, because we still have this wild legislative cycle getting ready to happen.
Wait. Calm down. I didn't say weeks and months. I said a day. You got a day. We need you back working. There's like a handful of people. So don't think you got weeks and months. No, you got a day, maybe two.
I love it. Thank you. I appreciate the enthusiasm and I appreciate the support for the work, because it's not easy to build a different conversation than what is, and which I know you know this too. It's not easy to build a different conversation than what is happening in the mainstream. So it's like swimming upstream, almost swimming against the current. So thank you. I appreciate you so much.
Thank you. We appreciate you. If I can ask for one more, I'm going to say goodnight to the community. If you'd hang out in the green room just for a minute so I can say goodnight to you personally. Really appreciate that.
Absolutely. Good night, everyone.
By the way, check out Anoa's. I think it's you don't do it on Twitter. I think you do it on Facebook and Instagram. You post pictures every now and then of your kids, and they are beautiful and handsome and inspirational in themselves, because every time, and I know you don't do this, I know this is them, they're wearing some wonderful shirt about getting out the vote and getting out the voice and amplifying.
That is them. Well, I mean, that's the other beautiful thing. I'll just say this about this cycle is it has had amazing swag that has really, who had the best swag, and it's 501c3 compliant because he's not running for president anymore. Julian Castro really, I think, got my son in particular really excited about wearing political swag because Julian Castro had some amazing local artists down in Texas, I think in San Antonio, design a lot of their gear. And, you know, my son has basically taken a bunch of my presidential campaign stuff and he wears it. My daughter too. They have, you know, their own hoodies and things like that they wear, but they got a bunch of stuff from a friend of mine who works for WFP and they love it. The colors, they're just like the splashes, like they've been so excited. And it's not even purposeful on my part. It's literally just what the kids are wearing that day because it resonates with them. It's popping. They like it. They want to be seen in it. And I think that's another way that we keep youth engaged, that we're culturally relevant in how we're engaging them. And our swag, our shirts and sweatshirts look like something they actually want to be seen in.
What a beautiful family you have. What a beautiful person you are. And, you know, I would keep you here all night because I love talking with you, but I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for this time. Our community so appreciates it. Be well, be good tomorrow. Enjoy the experience. All right?
Absolutely. Good night, everyone.
Take care. So that's Anoa Chong, everybody, electoral justice reporter, boots on the ground in Georgia. Worth the wait by far, as I promised you. Thanks for being with us tonight. Join us every weeknight here at the Power Hour, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. We promise you extraordinary conversations with it, whether it's inspirational community leaders at a local level or nationally known folks. It's always a community building conversation that is empowering as it is entertaining. Please join us again tomorrow night in about 22 hours and 55 minutes. We'll be here for you to build community together. And I'm thrilled that I get to play this one last time for this cycle. Tomorrow, if you're in Georgia, get out and freaking vote. All right? Do your part.
Hey, listen to the man. Oh, Lord. People, we got to get over before we go under. Hey, country, you didn't say what you meant. It just changed. A brand new funky president. We got to get over before we go under.
We need in every community a group of angelic troublemakers.